Last night, Laura Ingraham had JD Vance on her show for an interview. And this answer here from him to one of her questions about trying to force the states and cities to comply with the federal government, I think kind of encapsulates really the overarching theme of this administration, or one of the many ones. For people that don't know, the federal government does have control over, immigration law. That is in their purview. But there's this thing called the 10th Amendment, which says that states and local governments do not have to be forced. They cannot be compelled to enforce laws by the federal government. They can't actively thwart them, which is, I think, what they're trying to argue in the administration. But this has been a precedent that has been reified and reasserted multiple times, including by one Antonin Scalia in the case in 1997, Prince v. United States. The quote, which I read this morning in a conservative publication, said, "The federal government may neither issue directives requiring the states to address particular problems, nor command the states' officers or those of their political subdivisions to administer or enforce a federal regulatory program." So that is the case with immigration law. Cities don't have to comply with ICE, and that is in the Constitution. And yet, that is what this administration is obsessed with. So here is Laura Ingraham asking the vice president about that dynamic.
Given the fact that they're endangering the lives and killing American citizens, as we saw with that horrific crash in Florida.
Literally killing American citizens.
Literally killing Americans. I mean, these are not made-up statistics. These
can you pause it? These are not made-up statistics. They are referring to a truck driver who was an immigrant from India, who I guess was in Florida, and he had a driver's license. God forbid. And he made an illegal U-turn, and it killed 3 people. What do you mean these are not made-up statistics? You're not citing a statistic, Laura.
They're anecdotes.
You're citing an anecdote about a car accident.
Yeah, and people always point out ad nauseum that immigrant communities are typically commit less crimes and violations than do citizens of this country. But because they're immigrants, people like this fascists demonize them.
Well, I mean, I was going to get to that later, but now that you brought it up, we can just read this briefly from NPR last year. Some of the most extensive research on this comes from Stanford University. Economist Ran Abramitsi found that since the 1960s, immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than U.S.-born people. There's also state-level research that shows similar results. Researchers at the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank, looked into Texas in 2019. They found that undocumented immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime. Beyond incarceration rates, research also shows that there is no correlation between undocumented people and a rise in crime. Recent investigations by the New York Times and the Marshall Project found that between 2007 and 2016, there was no link between undocumented immigrants and a rise in violent or property crime in those communities. It's also important to note that since the spike in the 2 pandemic years, and also it crossed over into 2023, but crime in general in the country has been precipitously declining. So there is no data that backs up their racist claims, even as Laura Ingraham comes up with an anecdote that she says is data.
Right. And I mean, to be fair to libertarians, like Chase Oliver, the candidate that was on their ticket, had probably the best immigration platform of anybody on the ticket. But, somebody like Dave Smith had to package up libertarianism for Donald Trump to win. But yeah, do we want to go back to JD?
Yes, we'll start the question from the beginning.
Get better policies that actually serve the American people.
Given the fact that they're endangering the lives and killing American citizens, as we saw with that horrific crash in Florida.
Literally killing American citizens.
Literally killing Americans. I mean, these are not made-up statistics. This just happened.
Like, how about say that about the gun industry? Sorry.
And I mean, federal highway funds, that's leverage that the federal government has over the states that refuse to do the basics.
That's exactly
Would you
right.
consider advising that DOT and the administration pull back on federal highway funds for these states.
So I don't want to get ahead of any administration announcements, but we are looking at a whole host of points of leverage we can exercise over California and other states to make sure they comply with the law. Sanctuary cities are killing people because you allow these violent criminals to set up shop in your cities. Obviously, you saw this case with the person who murdered people on the road, 3 people on the road, because he couldn't even read the road signs. We have a lot of points of leverage here, but fundamentally, I think the American people have to stand with us here. Because when we go and tell the governor of California or the governor of New York that you have to stop putting the interests of illegal aliens over American citizens, we need the American people to stand with us. And I think that they will. I think that they are. But we're definitely not going to let this slide, Laura. You can't do it. You've got to stop putting the interests of foreigners who don't have the right to be here over the interests of American citizens. That is the entire point and purpose of the Democratic Party. If you go back to the election of 2024, what was the big issue? The big issue was illegal immigration. They were actually defending the rights of illegal immigrants to come into our country, to vote in our elections, to collect Social Security and Medicaid that ought by right go to American citizens, to say nothing of housing. This is actually the biggest driver of housing costs in some of these big blue cities, is that they've flooded the zone with illegal immigrants. As we've kicked illegal aliens out of our country, you actually see housing costs start to level off. So fundamentally, the difference between Republicans and Democrats is we care about American citizens. They actually don't like American citizens and want to replace them with low-wage foreigners. It's a very stark difference, and I think the American people are going to continue to reward us because of it.
All right.
Pause it. All right, or end it there. I just wanted to get to that housing piece because of how disgustingly cynical it is. When I say that clip is indicative of what this administration is about, that's what I mean. When he finally gets around to the cost of living, which Trump is making much worse right now, as we're about to discuss with Liz Pancotti, about how school supplies are already drastically increasing in price as Trump's tariffs begin to make their effects felt. They have no answer for the cost of living crisis except to demonize other people. They don't want to tax corporations.
The people who build housing.
To redistribute wealth to folks. They don't want to crack down on corporate landlords who are price fixing. They have nothing to address the cost of living crisis except to exacerbate it with the tariffs. But when they're addressed when they have to address something very real, oh, it's the immigrants. We're kicking them out to make your life better. That's not happening right now. It's actually getting a lot worse. And the housing crisis is no joke. There was a Harvard study in 2023 that found that over 22 million renters now spend over 30% of their income on rent and utilities. That's really the standard of like what's supposed to be affordable is if you spend 30%. That's half of all renters who are spending more than is supposed to be allowable for your budget, roughly, and that's kind of considered the affordability threshold. Half of all renters right now are exceeding their means just on housing and utilities. And there was data where you can just look at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics showing that prices for folks' primary residences, they've tracked this, have increased since 2015 over a 10-year period by over 50%, outpacing inflation, which was around 31%. So it's out of control. And his answer is, well, we'll kick out all the immigrants. I mean, we're gonna see how this goes. Are rental prices going to start to go down across the country because of this? We know the answer. And when he's threatening also at the beginning of the clip, withholding federal highway funds from California if they assert their constitutional right to not comply with the federal government under the 10th Amendment. I mean, pointing out their hypocrisy yields nothing at this point, but God, the states' rights stuff, it's just so obvious how cynical and how quickly they abandoned that.
Yeah, I mean, those precedents need to be used next time the Democrats have power. But like, first of all, the setup shop for foreigners to do criminal murders is such a lie. Sanctuary laws are passed often with the support of police departments because it allows communities to, say, report violent folks and other problems to authorities without worrying about ICE coming and kicking them down the door and sending them to some country. And it's already the case that if there's someone who's a violent criminal, that local authorities aren't going to let them set up shop. No, they go in and arrest them. That's what they've been doing this entire time. But the housing crisis caused by some sort of like Biden era immigration influx. No, we haven't been building houses since 2008. This is a very clear pattern that post the 2008 financial crisis, America has stopped building houses at the rate that it had for decades and decades and decades since then. And now and you know what? Who builds those houses is oftentimes immigrants, and who should just be. If you build houses in this country for American developers, you should just get citizenship and full labor protections. That's the way to deal with that. But it's not to kick people out who are actually going to be doing all the hard work. And like JD Vance, who's been a gopher for venture capitalists for his entire adult life.
Yeah, and he also was making claims that they're stealing our social services. This is another insanely false claim that they rely on. It's incredible how many lies are just in that one clip. Like, I honestly,
they're going to let them vote? It's like, no, we should let them seek asylum, which, by the way, Biden didn't even do. He revoked Title 42.
If you're an immigrant and you are, say, on a green card or you're working and you have a W-2, you are paying into our Social Security and Medicare system, and there's no guarantee if you don't get citizenship that you're going to get any of it. They are subsidizing our social services, not stealing from it. They are also taking jobs, JD Vance, that are often sub-minimum wage, exploitative, that Americans have more protections because of citizenship that they aren't often compelled to do, in the same way that like migrant children are when we get stories about them dying in meatpacking processing plants and that kind of thing. So it's just...
Donald Trump is literally a type of capitalist who uses undocumented immigrant labor to make bigger profits. He did it with Trump Tower. He used undocumented Polish workers who threatened to kill the guy who Trump had hired them because he started stiffing them on payments. Like that is literally the guy. He's the guy. It's not, we don't even have to be theoretical like, oh, capitalists like ICE because it does their work for them. Because what happened when they threatened Trump's foreman is Trump threatened, it wasn't ICE at that time, it was whatever the other border services was. But it was, get them in here, get them out, because they're not being compliant laborers. Trump is the guy.
Yeah. And I headlined this, but this was... The vacation wars are kind of a silly partisan fight that happens every administration, but it is a little jarring that JD Vance has taken more vacations than there have been months that he's been in power.
Where's he going?
I mean, it's like Iceland. They're all across the world. I mean, what'd you say?
Didn't he go to the Vatican?
Yeah. Oh, right. And then he killed the Pope, allegedly.
He's on missions.
Yeah.
Broken clock.
Yeah. So I just like, he was notoriously lazy as a senator and in his Senate run. He's just the kind of guy that wants to sit on his ass with a big pile of money.
Hollywood JD.
That is what gives me a little bit of hope with if he's the standard bearer for MAGA going forward. Like, I don't know if he has the juice, and I don't think he has the work ethic.
They should all go on vacation for the next 3 years.
Oh, I hope those golf numbers for Donald Trump are just like through the roof here.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.